Just a quick note before we begin. If you find meaning or comfort in these conversations, consider becoming a supporter of the Don't Forget to Breathe podcast. Your support helps keep these stories alive and makes it possible for others to find hope in their own grief journey. For as little as $3 a month, your support goes to offset costs associated with production. You can learn more on the information page for this episode and by clicking on the link, Support the Show. Welcome to Don't Forget to Breathe. I'm Bruce Barker, here with my co-host, Kristin Glenn. Before we get into today's episode, I want to take a moment to thank one of the people helping make these conversations possible. Every story we share, every parent we reach, and every episode we published is supported by people who believe no grieving parent should have to walk this road alone. Today's thank you goes to Loretta. Your generosity helps us continue bringing honest conversations about child loss, grief, hope, and healing to parents and families around the world. Loretta, thank you for believing in this mission and for helping us create connection, conversation, and community for those living after child loss. We are deeply grateful for your support. Now, today's episode is for the friends, the family members, the coworkers, the neighbors, and the friends who love a grieving parent but quietly wonder, what do I say? What if I say the wrong thing? What if I make it worse? The truth is, silence often hurts more than mistakes. After child loss, many grieving parents experience something unexpected, not just grief, but isolation. People disappear, conversations stop, invitations fade, not because people don't care, but because they are afraid. Afraid of saying the wrong thing, afraid of causing tears, afraid of stepping into pain they don't understand. In this conversation, Kristin and I talk honestly about what actually helps. We share simple phrases that matter, why presence is more important than perfect words, and how remembering and saying a child's name can become one of the greatest gifts you can offer. We also talk about some of the phrases that unintentionally hurt, even when they are said with good intentions, and why grieving parents don't need fixing, they need companionship. If you are supporting someone after child loss, this episode is for you. And if you are a grieving parent listening today, we hope this conversation helps others better understand how to walk beside you. Here is part one of our conversation. Hey, Kristin, how are you?
I'm all right today, Bruce. How are you doing?
I am doing well. So we've been talking about doing more episodes like this that are directed specifically to those who are supporting a bereaved parent, friend, family, because we've had those requests. And this particular episode, we're excited to share with you because this one is for you. The topic, as you see and as I just spoke to, is about I don't know what to say to a grieving parent. Well, guess what? We're going to help with that. The first thing we're going to talk about is, I don't know what to say, so say this instead, right? So one of the things that, as a grieving parent, it's happened to you, I know it's happened to me, is after child loss, so many people, in my case, avoided me because, as I found out later, they were afraid of saying the wrong thing. The impact of that is that silence and that disappearing act, it hurt more than if they said the wrong thing. Would you agree?
Absolutely. It feels like that avoidance of you as a person, the avoidance of the topic, even if they weren't going to avoid me completely, sometimes it felt like this was everything else could be talked about except for the grief. And that was very hurtful. That made me choose not to be in certain settings because that, even if I was in a room full of people, I could feel very alone if that silence was specific to the grief topic.
Yeah, as a bereaved parent, we don't expect people to fix grief. And I know that's one of the first things that people want to do is you want to fix, you want to help. Those are not the same thing. So fixing is you're trying to interact and change something that can't be changed. You're trying to change a feeling that needs to be there. So that sorrow, that grief, that feeling of loss, you're not going to fix it. But what you can do is be that person, be in that uncomfortable spot and create a space for comfort without the perfect words, because there's not.
There is no perfect words. And if people believe that they have the perfect words and they have a script and it's, rehearsed, that's not going to ever feel genuine or like something a grieving parent will really probably appreciate, because it's too large to try to fix with words. It's a forever sorrow. It's a forever journey. I think people kind of overcomplicate the whole process because they fear grief so much. It's not something that we're taught to deal with very well in our culture, but just simplicity in messaging is really powerful.
Absolutely. A grieving parent, we remember the sincerity. We don't remember the exact words. But I'm sure we've got listeners right now that are going, okay, but help me out here. What do I say? We're going to help you out.
Absolutely.
All right. So here are some things, here are some phrases that you can use that are, as long as they're sincere from you, but we're going to give you some pointers, right? One is, I don't have words, but I'm here. All right. That's just about being present. That's all we need. Just be here. Be in that uncomfortable spot. That's it. And another, super simple. I've been thinking about you.
That was so powerful to have that message come up on my phone with no expectations, no need to answer. It was just, I am thinking of you. Just to have someone that cares and know that you're on their mind. Powerful.
Yeah. And those that, depending on the age, and you're maybe in different parts of the country and you haven't connected a lot along the way, but you remember the child. And one of the things that you can say that even just opens up a conversation, and it is okay to say this. So if someone's speaking to me, that they could say, you know what? I remember Kristin. Or to you, you know what? I remember Zach.
Oh, what a gift. Especially as the years pass.
Yeah. And if you don't have a lot of those memories, hey, tell me about Kristin. Tell me about Zach. Tell me about Easton.
Yeah. And even if you ask something as simple as you're out to lunch and say, what was their favorite snack?
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be this deeply complicated question. It can really just be something that's a memory that you would ask someone with a living child.
Mm-hmm.
I think people believe that those questions are off the table, and they're just as meaningful to have someone ask, what's his favorite, whatever, fill in the blanks.
Yeah.
I found it powerful when people would use present tense.
Yes.
What about you?
Yes.
That was really
Definitely
important to me. I didn't, it was hurtful to have what was, what did he used to? I wanted, what is his favorite animal or snack, or,
Mm-hmm.
he was simple because he was only 4, but I think it's very helpful to say these things in present tense.
Yeah. Present tense, definitely, that I've had people say, well, what was her name? Same name now.
Absolutely.
It hasn't changed.
That's
so
right.
Instead, if you don't know, what's her name? What's his name? That's present tense, right?
Absolutely.
You're in the moment. One of the things, and if you're just reaching out, so let's say you're not having that face-to-face or the phone call, but you're sending that text message. And all you have to do to begin that is you do not have to respond to this message. So that takes that obligation off, and you're just passing along that message. So it might be, you don't have to respond to this message. I don't have any words, but I'm here for you.
You're on my
That's it.
mind today.
That's it.
That's it. Yeah, absolutely.
But be there. If you say I'm here for you, be there. And yes, it will be uncomfortable, but sit in that uncomfort. Another phrase, this is unfair, and I'm so sorry. Pretty simple one.
Yeah.
This one, really powerful. And we've talked about how people go away. Is you can say, you know what? I'm here next week too, not just today. You've given that bereaved parent something to look forward to. Because we've talked about this in previous episodes that people disappear. There's a lot of people there at the beginning, and then they just kind of go away. But when you make that commitment, I'm here next week too.
Yeah, and taking
today.
that to another step of, I'm going to reach out a week from today. And if you don't answer, just know that I'm going to be reaching out once a week, only if you can live up to that commitment. But what a powerful thing, like you said, for someone to know they're saying they're going to be there. And then, wow, I hear from them every Wednesday. At some point during the day, I get a text that I don't have to respond to or a call. It's such an incredible message of, I know your grief is going to last, and I'm going to last.
Yes.
I'm not here as a sprinter. I'm not here just for that first 2 weeks after the memorial service. You can count on me. I'm a constant.
Yeah, so you're going to make that call. So you're saying, I'm going to call you, whether it was a text, but let's say it's a phone call. I'm going to call you next week. But if you're not in a good place, you don't have to answer.
Exactly.
Because they're going to see you reached out. They're going to see you called. Because this is about them. It's not about you needing a response.
Yeah.
So you preface it.
It's a selfless act to support people that are grieving. It's not often going to involve a lot of kudos or a lot of affirmations because our emotional energy bucket is pretty empty. So you have to really be true to yourself. If you're able to be consistent and make a phone call once a month, once a week, whatever that looks like, but then be true to the commitment that you've made.
Yeah. Another one, and I know we've talked about this before. We're compiling them for you in a single episode. But one is, can I sit with you? You're not trying to fix anything. It's just your presence. Can I sit with you?
And I would add to that, can I sit with you? And I want you to know that whatever you want to talk about, I can hold. Because I feel like sometimes bereaved parents feel like they need to protect others from their dark thoughts. Their thoughts of, do I want to survive this? Can I survive this? Maybe their dark thoughts of the last time they saw their child in the trauma room or wherever it was, and they're holding that all in because they want to not upset others. So if you can really go into that space, not everybody can, and again, don't commit to something you can't, but if you can say, not only can I sit with you, but I want you to know whatever you want and need to talk about, I'm here for it. I can hold it.
100%. And so here's another one. I don't understand this kind of pain, but I care about you. That goes farther, in my opinion, than the standard phrase. I just can't imagine what that's like.
I couldn't survive this if my child died. That was something people would say, and I think, what does that indicate? Does that indicate your love is deeper, or I've been selected for this because I'm a strong person? So what you just said is so much different than, I can't imagine, I couldn't do it. It's, I don't understand this kind of pain. It's such a real statement.
It is an absolute real statement.
The other thing I think people try to do is try to compare it to something they do understand. And even if you've lost a child, you don't understand this person's journey.
Mm-hmm.
So even as a bereaved parent, I never would say, I understand your pain. because I
Right.
certainly don't. You and I are friends. I don't understand your pain around Kristin's death. I didn't have that relationship with Kristin. She was not my daughter.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to pretend to know your grief.
So making that statement, I don't understand this kind of pain, but I care about you. Again, you're putting that focus back on them as far as that it's not about you, right? You're saying, I care about you.
Yeah.
And it's back on them. Because making that statement, I just can't imagine. My thought is, well, maybe you should try.
Absolutely.
That's a scary road. So then again, that's kind of turning it back, and that's not what we want. That's why it's not helpful.
But could they try with curiosity around, I mean, my mom read about parent grief. She was a grieving grandma, but she did try really hard to it sounds like a more technical term than it's meant to, but she researched. What's this journey like? She talked to other grieving parents. She was curious. She went to groups with me. Like, she tried to think about what that would be like.
Sure.
Because she deeply cared.
100%. The honesty that you can offer someone, it goes way deeper and feels far more safe than having some kind of polished responses or believing you have to know the right thing to say because you don't. The first phrase we said, I don't have words, but I'm here. It's pretty simple.
I think there's such a fear in people supporting any griever. I think especially bereaved parents. And, I didn't mean to remind you. I didn't mean to cause you to cry. And I used to tell people, you let me cry. If you think you're reminding me that my son died, let me educate you that is on my mind every breath I take. Less intensely as time passes, but I am forever, every minute aware that this is part of my reality and that he's no longer on this earth. So I think sometimes that fear of, I do say your child's name, but then you cry, isn't that a bad thing? Or you are sadder than when we started this conversation. It's actually, you have given this person permission to be real back. And that is such a gift. It's such an incredible thing. One, our child is remembered. And two, that person is not afraid of whatever feelings we have. We might need to just reminisce and laugh about our child one day. We might need to tell a story. We might need to cry. But that someone's willing to be present for any emotion that comes up.
Yeah, it's not like it's something that slipped our mind and you just reminded me.
Exactly.
And like, I didn't mean to make you cry. You didn't make me cry. That's grief. That's loss. That's what's inside me. And that's okay.
Yeah, your presence actually let me cry.
Yes.
You gave me a gift for me not to be crying alone, which is what I normally do. But it was nice to have some company during a cry every once in a while.
Yeah. We've said it before. If you're making that commitment or you're just checking in months later, can mean so much more than just that immediacy after the loss. Because everyone's around.
Do you even remember who was there immediately after Kristin's death? I don't.
I remember one person that was very key. And what's funny is she just texted me. So she was there at the beginning and 19 years later can still reach out.
Checking in. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember key people, but if someone were to say, I remember Zach's celebration of life, I couldn't say who was there.
Oh.
I couldn't, but you're right. I do remember the people I leaned on.
Yeah, like the funeral,
intensely.
all of that. There's so much of it that's a blur and a fog, and who was there and who wasn't there. No. But like I say, like this text I just got, I remember that person.
Yeah. And she remembers you. Mm-hmm. She's not fearful of checking in.
Not at all.
It's a beautiful, beautiful thing.
It's just so funny that literally as we're speaking, her name pops up. Wow. So we talked about the things that we gave you some phrases, right? And now we're going to kind of turn the table a little bit. The things that hurt, even when you mean well.
I don't think those painful comments that I've heard, you've heard, probably every grieving person has heard, come from a place of, malicious place. I think they come from people's discomfort, our societal norm that if something's hard, let's fix it. I feel like when we're uncomfortable with something, we want to relieve that tension as quickly as possible, and that we really as grievers, we make others uncomfortable sometimes because it reminds them of the frailty of life, especially when it's child loss.
Oh, yeah.
It truly is a worst nightmare. So it is protective almost for them to feel like, oh, I can't go there because you make it real. You make it a possibility.
So here's some common phrases. So we talked about what to say. Here's what not to say. And again, various versions of this have popped up on different episodes, but we're putting it in one spot for you. Here's the good one. And I know we've talked about this in dad's groups. You've talked about it, I'm sure, and talked about all the time. Everything happens for a reason. When we're experiencing this level of deep grief, that to me comes across as dismissive and almost cruel, right?
Agreed.
So everything happens for a reason. Really? What's the reason? Is it something I did? Is it something Kristin did? Like, really? What's the reason? That could be the cruel part, is you're telling me there was a reason she died, or you're kind of blowing it off. Well, everything happens for a reason.
Yeah.
So please don't say that, and tell others that you talk to. Don't say that, because for a bereaved parent, we're not looking for the reason of why our child died. We don't need to go on that search. We are doing our own work, so we don't have to go start looking for that.
Yeah. And to have that kind of forced upon you early in grief by others, it may be something you're conflicted about internally, but it needs to be your own journey. And to say, oh, it's just, there's a reason for everything. I had to stop hearing the song that I used to love. I don't know who sang it, but there's a season. I used to love that song, a season to die, a season to sing, a season to dance. And then after my own loss and being with other people, I thought, and then sometimes things happen that are not in the right season. And I couldn't listen to that kind of, sing-songy, there's a season for everything, don't ask questions kind of thought. I was like, oh, that's too simple. I think another phrase that I know anytime I would do trainings for anyone that's a kind of professional in this field or support folks in this area of grieving folks would be the phrase at least.
Oh, yeah.
And you can at least anything. You can at least that you have other children, that you're young enough to have other children, that they didn't suffer, that they lived a long life. At least I've never heard that followed by something that's helpful.
Yes. In my case, at least you got 20 years. Well, guess what? I wanted 60.
Absolutely.
I wanted 70. I wanted until my body couldn't keep up anymore.
She was planning your memorial, which is what's supposed to happen.
Because if you say that, at least you got 20 years, right? If this is in a group, what about that parent whose child died at birth or the day after?
Right.
Now you're looking to flip that and do at least you can have other children.
Right.
I wanted that one.
Yeah. So there's this void that will never be filled.
At least it just erases the magnitude of the loss. It's dismissive.
It is. Yeah.
And then on the flip side, that sort of is, you're so strong. Yeah. Well, I don't feel strong and I don't want to be strong. I think every grieving parent has heard this, this phrase, this is a club that I don't want to be a member of, and now I am forever. So it's kind of along that same thing. Like, I don't want to be strong. That's not helpful for me because all I'm trying to do is survive. And survival is not the same thing as strength.
And I think sometimes when people are deeply grieving, they view that as like a weakness. I'll have people say to me, oh, I just stayed home and cried all day. I just had to stay under the covers. I couldn't face anyone. I just got to get stronger. I got to get better. And I often try to have them reframe that to think grief work is the strongest thing you can do. This is not weak to show how deeply you're sorrowful. So strength to the outside world looks like not the tears, not the expression, it's a mask.
Yes.
I've never had someone say to a really intensely weeping person, "Oh, you're so strong," but they actually should. They should say to a deep weeping person, "That is so strong for you to deeply grieve like that." That's how that should be changed. That's the strongest thing we can do, is to let this grief happen and feel it deeply.
Yeah. Yeah. Feel your feels.
Yeah. Yeah. How about they would want you to be happy? How did that land with you?
Yeah. We talked about that in a previous episode, in your experience with that, as, with a toddler with these incredible adult thoughts of, here's the emotion that I want this person to have. And in mine, it creates unintentional pressure that you've just put on me.
Absolutely.
To
You're
try to
supposed to now feel
suppress my
guilty.
grief.
Yeah. Because Kristin wouldn't want you to be sad. I think she probably would want you to be sad too.
Well, I think to a degree, it's like, I'm not going to just like, okay, great. Yeah, you're right. She would want me to be happy. Guess what? I'm happy. And then she goes, wait, what?
Right.
You're not sad that I'm not there?
Right.
So no.
It's just not others to decide that.
Right.
We can think that, like let me live a life. When we did our episode on joy, does it feel like betrayal? I think I did come to a point where it's like, it's a betrayal to not feel some joy at this point of my journey,
Sure.
This far out, Not for years and years, but I get to decide that. That's mine as the mom to decide how I honor him and when I'm ready.
Yeah. I mean, it's something that we've said again in a previous episode is, the decisions that I make now, I do that with Kristin in mind. So then this phrase sort of, it happens to me now, but it was my decision.
Yes.
When I was ready.
Your timeline.
Yeah. So a phrase like that, they would want you to be happy. It really puts, and again, I know it's not said out of spite. It's not said out of anger. It's not said out of any of these negative emotions. It's said, we get it. You're wanting to help. It doesn't help because it can and often does unintentionally put pressure on that parent to suppress the grief.
That's right.
And we talked about another one. I can't imagine. Yeah. We covered that. Again, it's...
Yeah, I skipped ahead.
You're distancing yourself.
Yeah.
So that's a safe place for you.
Mm-hmm.
And it's dismissive to the parent because, again, depending on where they are at the particular time, they go, well, I think you should. Why don't you sit down and imagine this? And again, that alternative, I can't fully understand, but I care.
Yeah.
I care about you.
That says so much, doesn't it? It's just a simple sentence, but it is really like a lot of things together. I don't understand. I'm humble. I'm curious about your journey, and I care about you. It really says so much in such a simple way. I think rushing people to grieve in a timeline that feels comfortable to others, you need closure. When do you think you'll be better? How will you heal? It was interesting to see the CBS correspondent, Steve Hartman, talk about that when he was doing All the Empty Rooms, that was really his job, to encourage listeners to believe that people could put closure. They were specifically talking about school shooters, and there was many things in the journalist world that would say, well, if that person is brought to justice, or if that person dies themselves, or if, then the words were often, well, now those parents can put closure to this tragedy. And you and I have talked about how healing and closure are active processes. They're not an end result that we're going to someday wake up and be like, closure, done.
Right.
This relationship continues until our last breath. And it should, because our love continues, and thus our grief is going to continue. It's just part of it. Yeah. And we have come to terms with that. And so I think it's important to educate others that there is no closure. There shouldn't be a closure, because we're not going to close the love that we will always have for our children, whether they're on this earth or not. Just
to kind of sum up, the don'ts. If you say that, because a lot of these are just their response sayings because society's been conditioned. The best way to recover from saying something awkward, just apologize.
Absolutely.
Simple apology.
Be
I'm
so
so
human.
sorry I said that.
Even if it's the next day, the next week, you can reach out to someone and say, I've been reflecting on that. I've been really worried about how that landed for you. I really care that you don't hear that in a way that wasn't intended. It's not too late to years later to reach out and say, I did something, I said something that I've thought about since.
Yeah, if you said, if you said something or did something that then you realized was hurtful, didn't land as you intended, again, I know your intentions were good. Stay present. Don't disappear.
Yeah.
It's easy to step away and walk away and go, it's probably just better if I just fade away. No, stay present. Don't disappear out of the embarrassment. No, it's not easy. It's not easy for you as a supporter. But guess what? I bet it's easier than being that parent that lost a child. So stay with them.
I think along with that, I think sometimes people can feel like, well, I'm not close enough. I wasn't in their inner circle, so I don't have a space. They kind of edit themselves out of believing that they have a space there. And if your instincts say that you have the capacity to bear witness and to sit and to companion and to listen, you're close enough. Because some of the people that are, quote, close enough disappeared. Just know that that's happened to every grieving parent. Someone that they really thought would come through for them disappears. So guess what? There's space. So I feel that give yourself permission to lean towards people if your instincts say, I have some capacity here.
Yeah. We'll pause here for now. Thank you for joining us for part 1 of this conversation. If there is one thing we hope you carry from today, it's this. You do not need perfect words to support a grieving parent. You just need the courage to stay, to send the text, to say their child's name, to sit in the silence, to show up again next week and the week after that. Grieving parents aren't looking for someone to fix their pain. They are looking for people who are willing to remain present inside it. In part 2, we continue this conversation and talk more deeply about that support and what it looks like long after the services are over, how grief changes over time, and how simple consistency can become one of the greatest acts of love you can offer. If this episode helped you better understand grief, please share it with someone else who may need it. And to the grieving parents listening, we see you, we remember your children, and we are grateful you are here with us. Until next time, be gentle with yourself, take care of each other, and please, don't forget to breathe. One more thing. This podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. We are not licensed professionals, just parents who've experienced unimaginable loss. This isn't meant to replace help from a therapist, doctor, or other mental health professional. If you're struggling, please reach out to someone qualified. You are not alone. You can also contact us by going to the show notes and click on Send Us a Text, or you can visit us at our new website, don'tforgettobreathefoundation.org. Feel free to email us at support@don'tforgettobreathefoundation.org. That's support@don'tforgettobreathefoundation.org.